Welcome everybody to our meeting of the Haverhill Town Council Energy and Sustainability Working Party. Just a quick reminder of the 7th of February. Just a quick reminder that we have no delegated powers and all we can do is make recommendations to full council. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Apologies from Sarah Marsh and possibly Laura Miller-Jones if she doesn't turn up.
Thank you, Colin. Item 2, declarations of pecuniary interest and requests for dispensations. Do we have any? No. Thank you. We're getting some feedback there. I don't know what.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll turn. Okay. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting to confirm the minutes of the meeting we held on the Monday, the 12th of December, 2022. As a true record. If proposer.
Putting those up on screen.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Colin. Would anyone like to make any observations or comments on the minutes? No. Could we have a proposer and a seconder to confirm the minutes are a true record, please? Do we have a proposer and a seconder? That's Liz, and a seconder, please. Alan. Is anyone willing to second?
Yeah, Councillor Stinchcombe has.
Oh, he has he? I can't hear you very well, actually, Colin. I don't know. Yeah, so can we have a show of hands, please? Thank you. It's carried. Item 4, which is actions from the previous meeting not on the agenda. Colin, I think we've got one item. Yeah.
I'll share the screen again.
Yeah, thank you.
Colin, you are quite low in the mix. Can everyone hear me as well? I'm having a few technical issues.
Yeah.
Quite quiet as well. So the first action point is for you, Gary.
Okay, sorry, it keeps popping in and out. Is this the piece talking about where we are with the solar slate information?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I've been in contact with a number of agencies that are solar panel suppliers that I've been in touch with over the past few years, vis-a-vis obviously all the information we've sought previously, and the general gist from a number of them, and I quote, one of them had never done slate before, as they never wanted to deal with slate tiles before. Another agency, and quote, I'm afraid we stick well away from slate as a rule. I got in touch with West Suffolk, with the contact at West Suffolk, who put me in touch with one of the agencies that deliver on solar for West Suffolk District Council. So I've had a chat this afternoon, following on from an email conversation we've had over the last couple of weeks. If I can just pass this information on direct to the committee. There was a discussion about the costings of solar slate panels, with the gist being that per square meterage, the solar slate panels are coming up roughly about £300 per square meter, which is about three times the cost of solar panels. So there is that. I had a very interesting conversation with the gentleman in question this afternoon about a few things regarding Haverhill Arts Centre and the possibility of solar slate panels on the roof. There was a number of issues, one being the costing, also including costings of installation, which are obviously required in terms of somebody required to remove the slate tiles that are there now. There is the installation of the tiles themselves, the purchasing of the tiles that go up, and also the scaffolding. The consideration that the guy who delivers this work for West Suffolk is to consider the issue of the sun location coming across to that building and the facing element of that. The consideration being that from a certain point, once you get once you probably get to 3 o'clock in the summer, the system will have a very low output as it will become shaded. There's also the issue of the pitch of the roof with regards to installation and the height of the roof, as normally when the solar slate tiles go up, scaffolding completely covers the building. Obviously, he would be very concerned about the installation of the tiles themselves. To quote this contractor, he said, I would put, quote, PV slate tiles at the bottom of the job list if you're looking in this direction. He obviously said you can consider all of these elements, but the main consideration being the outlay and how long it would take you to recoup any savings should it be feasible, and it would need some proper recce of the building in order to ascertain if it was indeed feasible to get the tiles up onto the roof. And to quote, he would stick well away from slate as a rule. He did say that's up for us to decide how we go forward and how we want to, obviously the consideration of how we become a carbon neutral council. So the feedback that, like I said, from particular people in this industry is, for us, it may be a bit of a step too far, but it's up for us to obviously consider. I was hoping to speak to our contact, Miles Messenger, today, but about these conversations, but that didn't happen. So I think if we still wishing to look down this particular route, I think my suggestion would be to get some more professional advice in a feasibility study about putting the solar slate up onto the Haverhill Arts Centre. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Has anyone got any comments, John?
Right. I did send you a link, Gary, didn't I, to a YouTube thing, which was from the
Yeah.
fully charged show.
Yeah, I'm fully charged. The video cast or whatever it is. I did watch that, and I think it is interesting. And I think it is solar slate can be a practical solution in many ways. I think in that particular video, I think one of the points that they made was it's great to get solar slate up if you're building right now.
No, that's right.
Retroactively fitting, there are obvious challenges, and I think the challenges of the Arts Centre are fundamental to the discussion we're having. And it does say in that video, the gentleman in question does say it does cost twice as much to put up and install on a basic property, and not just the property of the Arts Centre. So again, I'm not here to say that the committee shouldn't go towards this, or we shouldn't get some bit more professional feasibility studies into it. I'm merely passing on what the professionals have said to me the past 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, I was only pointing out really that from a cosmetic point of view, you can replace them. Yes, you're right about the 2 or 3 times cost. Also, remember the Arts Centre building is northeast southwest. So the northwest facing roof will get virtually no benefit if you try to put stuff on there. The southeast facing roof, particularly in winter time, will get virtually nothing as well. I would, the extreme cost of it, and of course the other problem being, of course, it is a Grade 2 listed building, and there's been quite a few recent planning applications that we've gone through at Development Control at West Suffolk, where very strong objections have been raised by conservation over any sort of solar panel on any Grade 2 listed building, even ones that are subservient to the building. There was one recently in Calford Green that went to appeal and got rejected by the planning office, by the inspector as well. But as a committee, we thought it was all right. But the inspector said no, and it's quite an interesting thing how many of these things are happening now, quite rightly. But if we have to spend money to find out whether we can save money in terms of getting somebody in, I'd probably not agree with that. But if somebody out there, a company out there, will say it's going to cost you this and this is how much you're going to recover, then it's possibly worthwhile. But you're right about the pitch of the roof. It's not ideal for solar panels either. And that's my view anyway. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, John. Joe, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think Councillor Burns has said it all, really. I mean, I'm fortunate to have a south-facing roof with my solar panels, and we get sun pretty much all day, certainly when the sun is high enough. The orientation of the Arts Centre is not something that can be fixed. And so, whilst I don't object to necessarily an investment, which potentially would be quite expensive, but provide ecological benefit in the longer run, I don't think there's going to be that sufficient benefit if the sun isn't going to be on it. So, no, I think Councillor Burns said it all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah. Is there anyone else, or I'd like to say a few words? Yeah, I would agree with what you've both said. The orientation of the building is, you've just got that flat end pointing south, which doesn't lend itself at all to solar panels. We possibly get a bit on the eastern side, but as it went on to the west of an evening, you'd have to put loads of panels up And as Gary said, you know, 3 times the cost of conventional panels. We could possibly have a huge battle to try and get them fitted anyway. But there's potential other things that we could do. Around batteries and things like that, so that basically we could potentially buy energy of an evening when it's cheaper, and then use it through the day, that sort of thing. I've been reading up quite a bit over the last few weeks about, you know, battery technology, and to be fair, it's really, you know, part and parcel of you know, for the future, and especially when you use it with solar panels, it really does make sense. You know, you can use them you know, on really sunny days, store up your energy in your batteries, and use it, you know, at high intensity times in the evening, such like from the batteries. Also, in winter time, you can use your battery to, you know, say again, buy cheaper energy during the evening, things like that. So I'll definitely look at that for the zone. I think it, you know, if we go forward with the zone, we definitely need batteries there. Alan.
Thank you, Chair. I can see that there are all sorts of difficulties, but the reason we went to investigate slates was it's the only option we've got, isn't it? I mean, we know, however difficult it might be to get planning permission, we're certainly not going to get planning permission for anything other than slates, are we? So isn't that how we ended up in that position of needing to investigate it?
That's correct, Chair.
From a contractor's point of view,
conservation officer that suggested it.
Yeah. From the contractor's point of view, they would, you know, point us off in some. I mean, either advise us not to put any solar on there at all, or say, you know, think about a cheaper doodah. But you know, there is no cheaper doodah for us, is there? Because we absolutely are not, you know, for a listed building. However, you know, I kind of feel we ought to be doing, because it's like it's people who are rejecting that as a solution for a listed building are in climate change denial, aren't they? I think to some extent they're sort of, it's climate NIMBYism. I think I've just invented that term. They're just sort of saying, well, we don't want it because we don't want the climate to change around here. Well, tough, the climate is changing, and we've all got to look to, you know, I agree every building doesn't have to have solar panels on it, but every available building that could possibly get any vaguely affordable benefit needs to at least consider it. So I think that's why we've come down this avenue. And I would favour, you know, as someone suggested, you know, getting a contractor. Was it you, Tony? Getting a contractor in who would be prepared to go up there and have a look. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, there will be specialist contractors that are around that deal with listed buildings and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, for example. But I mean, okay, they might want to charge us something to go and do it, you know, whereas someone who's potentially going to sell us some panels might be have their arm twisted to say, well, if you want the work, if you conceivably want the work, please go up there and have a look for yourself. But anyway, I would favour some further investigation, obviously not spending tens of thousands of quid on further investigation, but I think, you know, and then we might be making a planning application which falls flat on its face, but at which point we are screaming, there's a climate emergency, haven't you heard? I would have thought, personally. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Colin, then John.
Thank you, Chair. And this Councillor Smith has a hand up as well. Just say that we understand the cost of solar tiles compared to solar panels is about 3 times the cost. We understand about the fact that obviously we're southeast facing rather than southwest facing, so it's not the ideal orientation. But Chair, you mentioned batteries. One of the reasons why that the preference for the orientation of houses is either that the roofs are facing south or facing west is because the sun is generating electricity on those solar panels, either kind of during the day for people who are at home most of the day, or in the evening during the summer when the sun is in the west side, because then the panels are generating electricity as you're using it. And of course, if the panels generate electricity when you're not using it, they only have two places to go. It used to be just one place to go, and that was to the grid, which is a very inefficient use of panels. Panels are at their best when the power they generate is going straight into the sockets that you're using, so it doesn't go anywhere else. But you mentioned batteries, and batteries is such a game changer because effectively it means that whenever the sun generates power, if it's not being used, it can be stored and used by the owner of the panels, whether they be tiles or panels. So that means that the morning sun, which normally has a very little value as far as solar panels are concerned, because at 4 o'clock in the morning in high summer, when the sun is shining on those solar panels on the eastern side of a building, nobody's using any electricity. So it's not really an awful lot of good to anybody. But batteries mean that actually whenever the sun is shining on roofs, it is generating useful electricity. So the slightly southeasterly orientation of the roof of the art centre is still not ideal, because clearly, in the high summer, the sun's still shining on that roof. If it was a westerly roof at 8 o'clock at night when we've got the art centre busy, would be fantastic. But the batteries will level all that out, so it's not so terrible. And I do agree with Countess Stinchcombe that at the end of the day, we've got alternatives for heating, hot water, etc., in terms of heat pumps, etc., for the art centre. But for electricity, we are either going to do something in terms of regeneration, so renewable regeneration electricity, either solar panels or, as you say, trading electricity through batteries. But the alternative for the art centre alone is there isn't an alternative. We have to do something, but we would only ever do this if somebody else paid the bill, like Salix Finance.
Okay. I think, did Liz, I can't see you there, so did you have your hand up before John, did you?
I'm not sure, but...
Okay, Liz.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was just going to ask, do we have any idea how much a professional feasibility study would cost? And I think, as Councillor Stinchcombe said, would this be prohibitive? If obviously we need a bit more advice, but does anyone have any idea how much that will cost us?
Certainly, we
don't know how much it's going to cost, but unfortunately, I don't know quite what happened. We're trying to find out. We expected to have a meeting with Miles Messenger today about retaining his company for helping us create the next Salix grant application, and therefore we do have access to the information and the skills we need to create the bids and do all the calculations that we're talking about. Just unfortunate, there's some issue that we're struggling to get in contact with Miles. So I've asked Laura to go back to him to see what it is, because I know that my email from November didn't get responded to until mid-January, and he said that he found it in a crevice of his email address book that he doesn't normally check. So, but we've sent several other emails since then. We only really appreciated when we started the call with him this afternoon that actually he hadn't responded to the last 10 emails that were going between different people. So hopefully, if we can get some reliable comms with him, then he will do what Councillor Smith is asking in terms of being able to give us an estimate of his costs for doing all the work, and we'll do all the work as a precursor to having a Salix finance bid sitting there ready to submit as soon as the next window opens.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. John,
can I just flag as well? Sorry.
Yeah, come on, Gary.
investigations into all of this, there are very few people, there are very few people making these solar slates rather than not installing them. So the key thing would be to ascertain nationwide, not just Suffolk-wide, more than likely is a person, an agency, a contractor who would be a contractor like Miles, who would give us the feasibility study, and hopefully that could pass on to a contractor who would design and implement the package for the tiles to go up, and then we'd need to find a contractor to put the tiles up. The person who sells you the tiles is normally not the person who put it up. There is a company called GB Sol who appear, from what I can tell, the market sewn up. We've been a bit like ships in the night the last few days, so I haven't had that chat with them. So just so that people are aware that this isn't something that a lot of people want to deliver, and obviously because of that, the pricing will go up. But finding someone in the area or nationally to do it will be something else we'd have to kind of overcome. I'm not saying that it's not feasible, or I'm not presenting that it's not feasible, just that everybody around this table knows that it won't be just finding somebody around the corner who's going to go up to the top of the art centre and install these tiles. It's normally quite a complicated job and will require a contractor who knows what they're doing. Thank you. Thanks,
Gary. We've got John, then Alan, then Joe.
Yeah, coming back to what Alan's saying about the rules, not the rules, but, you know, we have the NPPF, which specifically states what the listed building requirements are. Now, there's a new NPPF coming out very shortly, but the priority still is on retaining the historic function of that property. And even, you know, in terms of the art centre, there are a few things to consider. The weight of the panels, will the roof support it, for example? I mean, slate is quite heavy, so in theory, yes, but you don't know. Also, I do remember the conservation officer stating to me that what's it called, Historic England, specifically states something like you have to be able to remove those panels and replace them back with what was there before. And also they must be something like minimalist intervention or something like that, i.e. that it mustn't be a big job to do it. So you've got that aspect of it. In terms of the battery technology, I mean, it's getting better and better. Although the amount of storage for a battery for the batteries is not that great compared to the generation it does. I mean, my business has got 92 panels on its roof, and it's generating about 7 kilowatt on a good, nice sunny day, but the batteries are only 3 kilowatt. So in terms of feeding the power to the building, it's not very much. And obviously, the more batteries you install, you know, it'll get a bit like West Suffolk House, which has got a massive big container there for West Suffolk House. You know, you're starting to talk about that, and then you start thinking, well, where are you going to put all this stuff, and how much is that going to cost? So I think having somebody to have a look at it, but all I'm concerned about is not spending a great deal of money investigating it to find out we can't do it anyway. Thank you.
Right, Alan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, to follow on from what John has just said, of course, Colin has got a new outdoor store project in hand, hasn't he? So maybe that could not only be storing tech gear, but it could be storing batteries as well. Sorry, that's slightly by the by. I just wanted to quibble, as you know, is my forte, really, quibbling with what Colin said about it's not efficient to export electricity that is surplus to your requirements from solar panels. Electrically, it's as efficient to export it down the street as it is to use it in your own sockets. I agree, if you're trying to export it to the other end of the country, it probably isn't, but to export it for use within Haverhill, and that, you know, who knows what happens in the the grid of Haverhill, is not electrically inefficient. It's just economically inefficient, because people who own solar panels will know you get paid considerably less, unless you're on some wonderful tariff of yesteryear. You get paid a pittance for the power you feed into the grid compared with what your supplier wants to charge you for electricity that you use. So I do agree with him. It's a economic inefficiency, but it isn't energetically, as far as my understanding of the electrical engineering. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Joe?
Thanks, Chair. I just, in response to Councillor Burns, and I'm sure he's aware, you can now get far bigger batteries than 3 kilowatt. I'm looking at a 20 kilowatt per hour battery that is commercially available. So it is possible to store much bigger amounts of energy. Secondly, regards to feasibility study, perhaps I'm being overly cautious. I would anticipate that would look at the possible amount that would be generated with such an installation, not just the practical side of could it be installed. The feasibility study must incorporate what the likely generation would be. I do have concerns with this project and its orientation as to whether it's cost effectiveness. Absolutely, I'm not denying there's a climate crisis, but a small return it's not a practical solution to the climate crisis. So that'd be my main concern, that we actually get some projected figures based on the orientation, based on the pitch, before, as part of that feasibility study. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Is that Alan? Alan, you got your hand up again? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I've got to come in and quibble again. Could we just clarify, there's no such thing as a kilowatt per hour, Joe. There's a kilowatt times an hour. That's an energy storage unit. Is that what you meant? The energy storage is 3 kilowatt hours?
20 kilowatt
20 kilowatt hours, okay. Right, John, was that what you were talking? That was a slip of the tongue, yeah, fine. But John, when you said it's a 3 kilowatt, you meant the actual power that you could get out of it. It stored a load of energy during the day. Did you mean 3 kilowatt hours? I don't think you did. I think you said 3 kilowatts, didn't you? Which is the rate at which you
I do mean kilowatt hours, but a system on my business was only installed just before COVID. And it was installed by West Suffolk Council. That is what they recommended. Based on the space available, and this is what I'm saying: is more space you get, the bigger storage capacity. Of course, you are.
Yeah.
And Thank you. There may be places, in the arts centre, you could possibly put batteries in but batteries have to be in obviously in a safe location, well ventilated, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And presumably fireproof if they're lithium based, in case.
All that sort of stuff. Yeah. We used to. I mean, I know it's a long time ago on our ships. We used to use halon systems, but that's a long time ago now.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Let's come in again there. To be fair, I mean, we're looking at the roof on the arts centre. What about the back wall? You could have conventional angled solar panels fitted to the back wall, which would actually be on the roof. So I'm trying to think what the back end looks like. So potentially that's a location for conventional panels on the back.
Yeah, but that's not going to work with a listed building, is it?
Pardon?
Chair, I think Councillor Stinchcombe is probably right. I have to say that the back end of the building, I think the back end of a bus, back end of elephant, whatever you want to call it,
exactly.
It's not a pretty sight, the back end of the arts centre.
Right.
But it will make no difference to the conservation officer. The conservation officer is, I suppose, because I sent her a picture of Historic England's brochure, if you like, about how to make historic buildings able to accommodate renewables. And Historic England has used as, I think, basically their cover story, a solar tiled historic building. The conservation officer is willing to look at a proposal. So I think she's perhaps become more mild, John, than perhaps your previous experience is. But hopefully that's a positive sign. Certainly in terms of any extension, we're talking about a wraparound extension from the southeast round to the west. So there's potential for solar there as well. And whilst I absolutely get Councillor Mason's point that the economics of it all need to stack up, I think we can say absolutely categorically that the only way we could afford to do this in pounds and pence is if we get some savings finance to do it, in which case it's somebody else's money, and we all know that if we get to use somebody else's money, the finances all add up significantly easier. If it was simply down to us going to the commercial market, paying to have our roof turned into solar tiles and sitting back and waiting for return, well, it would be 50 years plus. Councillor Mason's absolutely right to suspect that there's no way on earth that there's an economic argument for it. This is purely about public sector decarbonisation, about us demonstrating that we're finding a way to decarbonise what we're doing. Without somebody else paying the bill, it's forget any of the mathematics. It's never going to make financial sense.
Yeah, I say that the batteries are the crucial part of it, and I say Tesla are making some fantastic wall batteries now. So it'd be great to look into it. But what's happening with the Zone project there as well? Have we moved any, Gary? Have we moved any further forward with that?
I think actually, no, I'm saying it might be one for me. If I remember rightly, where we're at is this is where people are going to hold their head in their hands. I think we're at the point where West Suffolk needs to see our lease with the Water Family Trust, and I'm waiting to get a copy back from our solicitors so I can forward it on to West Suffolk. I know that you can hold your head in your hands. It does sound ridiculous, but that is where we're at, if I remember rightly. Gary, is that right? You can nod or hold your head in your hands yourself if you want to.
Yeah. So have we come up?
You can hear us actually.
Yeah. So have we come up with a system that works for the Zone yet, or is that still pending? Negotiations.
Unless Gary can join in with the conversation and answer that question, I don't know. I as far as I know, we're at the point where we need to start agreeing with West Suffolk our legal ability to put stuff on the roof, which we have. The lease I've got shows very clearly that we have the full repairing duties of it. But I'm waiting for confirmation in terms of changes, etc., through our solicitor. So that's what we're waiting for. Gary's off. Gary's gone off mute now. So.
Yeah. So will that include a battery as well?
I believe that is where we're at with the legal side. So it's all progressing. It's now in the kind of the discussions between West Suffolk, and we're ready almost to kind of, once all that's been signed, then we're going to be going.
All right. Just and that's going to include batteries as well, is it, Gary, in that scheme?
I believe we were going to take the discussion about batteries. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Funny enough, I think the chap I was talking to today was actually one of the companies who delivering for West Suffolk on that particular scheme.
Yeah, I think that's crucial, personally. John. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I can only go from my own experience. As a tenant, we didn't get involved at all. The agreement is totally between the landlord. We got a full repairing lease on our building. The agreement is between the landlord and the West Suffolk in this case. We didn't have to do anything with producing leases or anything like that. They came along and did a site survey. made sure the roof could support the panels. In my business, it's more of a. It's not as certainly not as structurally sound perhaps as the art centre roof, but it had. I can't remember. Anyway, it's whatever it's got on the roof. And it was all done by them. They turned up one day or over a couple of days and came along and installed the panels, installed all the electronics and everything else. And that was it. The agreement is between the landlord and West Suffolk, not between the tenant and West Suffolk. We get the benefit of having reduced per kilowatt usage costs. I can't remember what the figures are now, but it's certainly quite low. And obviously West Suffolk gain from anything else on it, whatever agreement they've got with their own suppliers.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to get involved too much. I think Andrew Sampson should be just talking to the landlords and finding out if they're happy for it to go ahead.
But shouldn't Haverhill Town Council be getting the benefit? Yeah.
No, West Suffolk are the beneficiaries because it doesn't cost the town council anything for it to be installed.
Yeah, but I mean, what about if we got the funding and we installed
Well, that's a different matter. If you do it that way, then you don't bother going to West Suffolk. You do it yourself. But I understood that you were looking at basically a zero cost action for the town council. West Suffolk already do this. They do it in many places. They made a big deal about it on the budget briefing on whenever it was yesterday.
They're making a lot of money out of it, but maybe it's something that we should be doing. I don't know.
Well, we did look at that ourselves, and we wouldn't make any money out because there's no feeding tariff.
I don't disagree with anything Councillor Burns has said, but all I can say is that West Suffolk hold up hoops, we jump through them. They ask us for documents, we provide the documents. We're at the end of the day, we're doing what we're told to do in order to get to the end goal. And that's all we can do. I don't know whether goalposts have been moved or whatever the case is, but this is what we've been asked to provide, and we'll provide it. I share Councillor Burns' belief that eventually the agreement must be between West Suffolk and the landlord, simply on the basis of the fact that the presence of the solar panels is their predicted life 20 plus years is hugely more than anyone's lease, so they have to have some sort of agreement with the landlord. But they've said we want to see your lease, so that's what we're arranging.
Okay, but as I'm saying, does it include a battery system as part of it, Colin? What they're proposing?
If I jump in, I couldn't say definitively if there's a battery or not. I couldn't say definitively.
Because that's what makes the most sense, to us to have that, so that we're getting power when the sun isn't shining. And we're benefiting.
When we get to that point, we'll certainly agree with that. I mean, for my own house, I'm looking at a 6.5 kilowatt battery, which is the minimum that they're offering now. Technology is marching forward so quickly, so I'd be surprised if West Suffolk aren't thinking about a battery of some sort. I suppose a cynic in me might say that, as Councillor Burns mentioned, the benefit to West Suffolk of the feed-in tariff that they negotiate. I suppose it's always possible that West Suffolk have a vested interest in feeding the electricity into the grid rather than letting us use it for free.
But we're supposed to be talking about benefiting the environment, benefiting Haverhill Town Council, and I think that's integrally part of it. That we do the best system that we can. I know that West Suffolk are obviously designing their system so that it benefits West Suffolk, but Anyway, I want to make sure that our residents get the best out of it that they can, and the town council does. All right, John.
Just very quick. I won't give the figure as it's a public meeting, but we pay single digit pence for the electricity generated by the solar panels compared to whatever the normal rate is now.
Yeah.
I'm sure Colin could tell me. I can't remember what the number is.
85 pence.
There you go. Yeah. Well, ours is single digit for that amount of money we get.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I think we've had a decent discussion on that. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the public forum. We have not got any public speakers, so we'll go on to item 6, which is the bee-friendly Haverhill, and that's to hear an update on progress towards becoming a bee-friendly town. I presume that's Colin, is it?
Yes, it is. I mean, last time we were talking about the various kind of aspects of being a bee-friendly town. So if I just work through those, we've been having conversation with the Eco Committee at Castle Manor School as far as being a bee-friendly school is concerned, and I've connected Nan to the school. So hopefully there's something good will come out of that. The Make a Bee-Friendly Station, brackets, bus station, I have a meeting next week with Sue Roach from Haverhill in Bloom and Damien Parker to talk about the art of the possible around the bus station in terms of making that as bee-friendly as possible, and indeed taking into account that it might already be very bee-friendly. So we'll consider that too. I've also been talking to the Store Valley AONB, who have a grant scheme run by Essex County Council, and they've said that we can certainly qualify to apply for a grant from them for doing the project in the bus station as well. The Storebrook is a tributary of the Store. They meet up in Sturmer, but we're close enough, and the project is of interest to the ONOB. So that looks reasonably promising. You will have seen some of the well, we'll be discussing later anyway, the sustainable markets, the green markets. The one in April is bee themed, and thank you to Councillor Mason and others for helping support that. So we look like we are beginning to tick quite a few boxes as far as being a bee-friendly town is concerned. Obviously, these are all in the pipeline, but we're moving in the right direction.
Thanks, Colin. Has anyone got any comments or questions at all? No.
Councillor Mason has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Joe, I didn't see.
That's all right. Thanks, Joe. Okay. Firstly, I had a conversation with Lizzie Cocker regarding the funding that I think Colin was referring to for the B performance from the theatre group. Is that something that we're coming on to on the agenda, or?
No, that's part of this item.
Okay. So I think we were short of about £500. I still have some county money that I might be able to put towards this, but I don't know what our shortfall was. And money being tight at Haverhill Town Council, if I can help supplement it, then that money that we would spend on that particular project could go to another community group. So as I say, I'm happy to make up the shortfall, but perhaps Colin, if we have a conversation about what further monies might be needed to make sure that that theatre group can be fully funded, I'm happy to do that. As regards bee-friendly stations, it's nice to have it very public, but there may be places in housing estates or less noticeable places but we could also consider for bee-friendly stations as well. I know Haverhill and Bloom do a brilliant job with work along Starrbrook and the Haverhill High Street, but I think when I first initiated the conversations about finding opportunities, that we were looking beyond the town centre across the whole of Haverhill to see what additional opportunities there were to increase biodiversity and encourage bee populations. Okay, thank you.
Has anyone thought of actually looking to put hives on council-owned land or anything like that, like East Town? I know it's West Suffolk, but say last year there's a guy in Keddington, Luke's Bees, who sort of goes around collecting sort of rogue bee colonies and looks to rehome them, etc. I had one move into the compost bin in my house. He came along and took it away, and he said, he's at the time I think he was looking for other locations, to put hives and things like that. So I just want, just as an off thing around, we're talking about making a bee-friendly town. What about, across the various councils, we've got land, especially, potentially, chalks and playing field, etc., etc. Maybe we could actually really be proactive and get some hives. I don't know, something we could look into.
I did look at this, and there are there's a website where you can register your land for existing beekeepers to use to put their hives. They require access, once a week or so to be able to maintain the hives, etc. But it's certainly a possibility. Obviously, the interaction between bees and the public is always a concern people have, and then there's lots of discussions about hedging, etc., so that bees can't fly off from 2 feet and continue flying at 2 foot altitude. You put a 2 metre high hedge, and the bees actually have to go above head height, and then will fly at that height rather than come back down again. So there are some issues to think about in terms of the interaction between bees and the public, but it's certainly a possibility. Obviously, the less interaction between the public and the bees, probably the more that both like it, to be honest. So yeah, that's something we could certainly look at.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments? No. Well, thanks for the work you're doing on that anyway, Colin. It's all good stuff. So, and Joe, etc. Right, we'll move on to item 7, which is sustainable markets. To receive a report on planning for the 2 sustainable markets. I think Sarah normally leads on this, doesn't she, Colin? Or, yeah, is she here today? No.
No, she's not, because she sent through the reports that I circulated.
Okay. Okay. Would you like to elaborate on any of that, Colin, or just take the report as is? Or if anyone's got any comments, John?
You want me to bring the report up?
Yes, please. That'd be good.
Yeah, no comments. Just I had the brilliant idea of setting up a shared mailbox so people could email their interests to the council, which I set up end of last week, I think it was. That's why she says on her report somewhere, I can't remember where it is, might be a bit further down. Post has gone out to social media with new email address and boost, because originally the post on Facebook basically said reply via Facebook. Well, that's great if you use Facebook. A lot of people don't use Facebook, so hopefully there'll be stuff going out. We probably need to get something, I'm due to go out again, on the notice boards in town and on the estates as well. That'd be nice to get something put out there. the West Suffolk markets side of things, I've got I'm having a bit of a problem, and we're not alone. Newmarket's got the same problem as well. Is the fact that we've hardly got any stalls on the market nowadays. So anything to boost the market generally would be brilliant on any day, whether it's this or something else, would be good. But we're not getting the stall holders. You know, we're getting 3 or 4 a week, and that's it. We seem to have lost all the support from West Suffolk, which I've made a formal email to West Suffolk last week, and I'm waiting for an answer on. But yeah, I'd have sounds like a good list. I don't know if it's any others, but hopefully we'll get a few more pink, if you like, acceptances. Thank you.
Yeah, there's some good people coming there though. So yeah, hats off to Sarah, etc., for getting those people on board so far. Yeah.
Yes, Liz Smith has a hand up.
Sorry, I can't see you, Liz. Liz.
Just trying to unmute myself. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, from what John was just saying about making the market, you know, a bit better as well at the same time. So it does make it a little bit, you know, bigger for the day. Could we not combine it with the makers market, or was that already been sort of mapped out for the next few weeks? They come once a month, don't they, or something?
John.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't know when they're restarting, because they're currently for winter. They're shut down for winter.
Right. Okay.
But it's normally the first Saturday of every month when we do get them started, because they have commitments elsewhere. So this one obviously is a thing. The one for September will probably be the makers market.
Oh, okay.
But we, you know, this one.
Yeah, I just thought we could perhaps combine, you know, some of the things. I don't know whether it's worth contacting them. If you said if they're sort of shut down for the winter, but perhaps they might come out for this particular event. I don't know. Just a thought.
Just to confirm that Councillor Burns is right, the September green market coincides with the makers market.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else got any comments or points to make on that item? No. Okay. Item 8, which is the Public Sector Decarbonisation Fund, to receive a report from Colin and the Operations Manager on discussions with Miles Messenger and Boyge. Colin, from what you said previously,
you said,
yeah,
we were on the call, and it was he didn't join us, so I've already spoken to Laura and asked her to ask him to try and check through his emails and put in safe senders, whatever he needs to do, so that actually our messages are getting through, because that's an opportunity lost. I've given him some dates over the next couple of weeks, so see if we can get back together as soon as possible. I've also had some correspondence with Salix Finance itself, and at this stage they don't have a fourth phase. So at this point, it may be Miles knows some industry chatter, but there isn't actually yet the department for, actually, I was about to say the Department for Energy Innovation and Science is going to be thinking up the next date. But if anyone has been watching the news today, they'll know that department has just been abolished. So it's now, I don't know where that's going to end up. So yeah, I'm now thinking on my feet. I assume that's a spanner tossed lightly into the works, and we'll have to wait and see what comes out the other side.
Okay. Thanks for that, Colin. Anyone's got any comments on that at all? No. Okie doke. Projects update. Again, that's for you, Colin.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to prepare a document on that. The only thing I can think, apart from what we've discussed today, is that the parish handyman and I planted another 10 additional orchard trees in the community orchard at Chalkston. They arrived. There's an interesting thing when it comes, and if any of you are involved in any projects where you've ordered trees to be delivered for planting, twice this year. The first I've ordered trees. These trees were ordered in November 21. In June 22, they confirmed that yes, we know we will be delivering the trees. The next I knew about it was when there was a man at the box office desk with 10 trees for planting. So we had to drop everything and get them planted because they've been hooked out the ground. They need to be got back in the ground. I had exactly the same thing with 150 trees delivered to my home that had to be planted within the next few days. So that was we had no notice and had to get them in. It's if any of you are thinking about ordering some trees for planting, just bear in mind that they're just going to turn up. It doesn't seem to be within the capacity of these suppliers that when they dispatch them, they send you a courtesy note to let you know that they've dispatched them, so you have some sense of expectation. So this good news is that we've got 10 more trees in the community orchard. They're all planted. The previous ones, I think that at least a couple look like they haven't made it through the winter. There's, in terms of wildlife up at the Chalkston, it looks like they've been nibbled. I don't think it's vandalism. I think it looks like that they've been nibbled. So there's some interesting creatures up there that have managed to get to the centre of Haverhill. So we've done that part, but I don't think there's any other updates that we haven't discussed this evening as far as the action plan. So apologies, I've not updated it in writing.
Thanks for that, Colin. Yeah, I've seen muntjac just crossing Erringhausen Way, by...
That's what we think.
Yeah,
that's what we think it might have been, because the rabbit tubes were still on it, but the top had been nibbled across, and we did wonder whether or not somehow muntjac had got into the middle of Haverhill.
Yeah, they are about, and foxes. I've been going across Erringhausen Way, and foxes crossed the road as well. So we're full of wildlife. I blame the railway war. Yeah. So. Thanks for that anyway. So item 10, items for next meeting. Has anyone got any proposals or anything that they would like for Colin or whatever to consider to go on the agenda? Yeah. Personally, I think we've got quite a good list of stuff to sort of constantly review anyway. So
Chairman. There was a action point to arrange from the last meeting to arrange a meeting in March if we felt that at this meeting that one was necessary. Otherwise, it would be the kind of the normal kind of date, which is 3rd of April, which is obviously only just after March in any case. So if before we finish today, councillors can consider whether they feel there's any value in a March meeting, it will be sometime in March. We get together with Miles Messenger again, hopefully, but obviously I don't have a date that would help form that opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I personally think the beginning of April is going to be fine anyway. The way things seem to be moving, and it's not down to no one here's fault. It's just it seems to be. I know very well that anyone that's involved with sort of green energy, solar panels, and such like that, I've come across, they're absolutely stacked out with work at the moment, pulling their hair out. And the only problem as well with that is that there's a lot of cowboys, etc., have moved into the industry. So, you know, we best take our time, make sure we do things properly and get the right people. So, you know, it could be worth waiting for. Right, John?
And we have got an election.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a purdah period from 22nd, 23rd of March, whenever it is. So we ain't going to be able to make decisions of spending money, are we? It's everything expenditure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the.
We could make a recommendation.
Recommendation,
yeah. But
yeah,
it's the period of enhanced sensitivities from the 22nd of March when the notice of the election comes out.
Okay, well, Colin can advise on that at the time anyway. But to say we really need to try and get things moving. Okie doke. So date of the next meeting, Monday, 3rd of April, unless something extraordinary happens, which Colin will let us know. But look forward to seeing everyone on the Monday, the 3rd of April. Okay, so we'll close the meeting, and it's